The image of these lava fountains is impressive. Here's another one. Today we shared one. This is the second. It's published by the United States Geological Survey of the United States and shows lava fountains that can reach up to 300 meters, in this case, apparently between 90 and 150 meters. Kilauea is impressive. Listen to this. Well, there's the force of nature in all its splendor. And, well, Kilauea and other volcanoes have been quite active these past few weeks. Afterwards, whether it's a coincidence or not, after all this solar activity we've had, the volcanoes have been very active. This time, Kilauea is showing a spectacular image of lava fountains. But we also have another image, what we're seeing here.
Which is, well, here we are seeing it. The surface-to-air missile system, the Samiris-T SLS from the Ukrainian Air Force. They were intercepting a Russian Yelan-2 drone, essentially a Russian-made Shahed.
Let's listen to the moment it takes off. Welcome. There is a moment when it destroys the drone in Russia. It's part of the ongoing activity. How have you been? Happy weekend. Let's get to the news, to what's happening in the world. We start with a pretty intense earthquake. An earthquake that would have been a 7.0. Of course, they're reporting an earthquake, not a tremor, because it's already a pretty strong earthquake. Especially here. We've been telling you that some experts in the area are concerned because there's been a lot of activity in this region. You remember quite a bit, right? A lot of activity. And what they said is that it's the normal average, yes, but the experts said that in the first few months there was hardly any activity, and now there's been a lot of activity. This isn't the first magnitude 7 earthquake. Several quakes between 6 and 7 have occurred in recent months. But besides that, there was also a pretty intense seismic swarm. Though this time it's not near this area. This city is called Anchorage, as we mentioned the other day. But this time, if we move a little farther away, it happened in this area between Canada and the United States. That is Alaska and the United States. If you notice, yes, there's a lot of activity, but here the activity is much more intense, with levels 7, 4, 5, and several earthquakes. So, right, what's going on?
Well, this is the famous Yukon region, and, well, it's a magnitude 7 earthquake that was felt in this area, which, well, happened. This Saturday, there was no tsunami alert or serious damage reported. It's a mountainous area where hardly anyone lives. The epicenter is about 370 kilometers from Juneau, Alaska, and 250 kilometers from Whitehorse, Yukon, a mountainous, sparsely populated region. And most of the citizen reports indicated falling objects, but no structural damage that would affect the homes. No.
Great then, a strong earthquake this time, but luckily it apparently didn't cause any damage. Not so much because it wasn't strong, but because there aren't many people in the area, at least so far, right? The same seismologist, Alison Bird, explained that the seismic event was felt strongly. Those who felt it strongly.
On the surface?
Very superficial, so it was strong. And also on the surface. That's why the seismologist says, well, that it felt strong. It felt strong. Aftershocks below 7 are still intense, and seismic activity is common in this area. We've said their estimate is that it happens every 2 years. They have earthquakes up to magnitude 8 in Alaska. I mean, those are very powerful earthquakes that usually happen there. There, tall buildings are prohibited. They have to build low to obviously avoid these risks. The population is more or less used to this kind of activity, although this time, luckily, it's more toward where the Bigfoot and the Yeti are. There, imagine at the intersection where they are.
There, it's about 2 blocks from their house.
It happened about 2 blocks away from them. Are they also used to this kind of activity? Besides, lately Yeti and Bigfoot haven't been getting along, and they're always like that. But anyway, let's move on to other matters, other important topics as well. Today, aftershocks continued from yesterday's magnitude 5 earthquake off Jalisco's coast in Mexico. We already talked about it, possibly a seismic swarm in the area, but anyway, we've already discussed that. In the afternoon, not much activity. It had been the largest earthquake in the last 24 hours, although obviously the 5.01 surpasses it. It was once the world's largest, but this one has already far surpassed it, right? A pretty intense earthquake, by the way. Speaking of intensities as well, it got really intense. Diosdado Cabello is not giving a message. Let's listen to what he says. How is Venezuela unfortunately turning into North Korea? Listen to this.
That allows communication to a swarm, a network that allows communication from the community command to its streets, but also allows the communities to communicate with each other. Because here, no one can be alone with...
No one can be isolated. That's all I know. I've seen the North Koreans where you literally can't walk. So you can't walk alone in the street, right? They have to walk at least in pairs or groups of three, but they can walk alone. He's talking about a network, a swarm of information so that any traitor, as he called them, could report them. Anyone who is against the regime, who doesn't agree with them, whatever the reason, well, they can be watched or even accused of being a traitor, so to speak, by the regime. That's the new order that Maduro is issuing. What comes out about it?
Well, what is known is that Diosdado said today that the country will keep functioning, that they will be working hard to keep it running. For example, the tourism sector is completely paralyzed, which has clearly affected them. And they talk about a non-armed struggle, they say we have to prepare ourselves to move from a non-armed struggle to an armed struggle. Yes. Basically, they want you to be ready for any possibility. And they also talk about psychological terrorism or psychological pressure. Yes, Donald Trump has been active in the Caribbean and there's been a lot happening recently. It seems like he won't take action, that he'll just stay at that point.
Exactly. It seems like he's just going to stay there doing nothing. And I tell you because, well, you never know, right? Really. With him, you never know. But Donald Trump, the president of the United States, just made a comment. Not like he doesn't know, but anyway, this Donald Trump, right? He says that, well, he already analyzed it thoroughly and that Venezuela doesn't represent a risk for the United States. What does this mean? I mean, look, with this, he's already backing off, he's already stepping back, or what's going on, we still don't know. As long as he doesn't withdraw the ships, but at some point he might start withdrawing the ships and it could give the impression that he's not going to take action anymore. Who knows? But for now, it obviously caught everyone's attention. This is concerning this possibility, obviously, that he might not carry out the operation anymore. And well, it's also known about this conversation. It's not about Erdogan and Maduro, no.
Yes, reminding us that Turkey, Erdogan's land, was one of the places where this was considered. Now, as for Maduro, no, in case he left the country, but anyway, today the president of Turkey had a call with Nicolas Maduro where he asked him to keep the channels of communication with the United States open. In other words, not to close them. And so, given the possibility that they might negotiate something or that this issue might move forward, know that it shouldn't be closed off to the point of leading to a military confrontation.
Well, there you have it. Erdogan is getting more and more involved in different issues, not just the Ukraine issue, even the Kurdish issue, the Syria issue. He got pretty heavily involved in that matter. In fact, I think Erdogan was key in helping Syria free itself from the dictator at that time. So, well, the fact that Erdogan is there could mean that something is going to happen. Maybe he's not someone as well known as other leaders like Macron who loves the media. Erdogan might not appear as much, but it seems that he knows how to operate in these kinds of situations. He uses that same strategic ambiguity that has kept him in power.
A few years ago, it was Maduro. Turkey drew a lot of attention. I think it was before the pandemic because it was with this chef. Remember the guy who sprinkled salt like this and got heavily criticized? No, because although they enjoyed good times in Venezuela, they've faced tough years with food shortages, and he was traveling with a very popular chef then. Trending, he didn't charge for everything.
Super expensive.
Super expensive, of course.
Well, let's move on to other matters, other important topics as well. Notice that there is an investigation being carried out by NATO. Something is moving in the skies of those countries. Between a country that is not part of NATO and another country that is part of NATO, because there are more and more movements of, let's say, strange objects, of drones, let's say. They report that France, a NATO member, and Ireland, which is not, are involved. Are new investigations already being opened after new and worrying sightings of drones, especially in high security areas? For example, in Dublin, where 4 drones believed to be military appeared right when Volodymyr Zelensky landed. And in France, they flew over a nuclear submarine base. That has also made the French very tense. What's going on over there?
Well, I think the incident in France happened at the Londes base, where they had those nuclear submarines with ballistic missiles. The authorities couldn't intercept the drones. If we tell them that yesterday, well, they fired some weapons at them, not firearms, but ones that send out a signal to neutralize or stop the drones so they fall. And in Ireland, well, the drones were stopped, detected, right during the visit. They were seen when Zelensky arrived. I think it drew a lot of attention. It doesn't seem like anyone tells him what the logistics are or the trips he's going to make. The president of Ukraine and the local forces are investigating, obviously coordinating with international allies. There was no change to the schedule. Everything went on as normal regarding the president's visit, but it definitely drew attention. In the end, this president has faced several assassination attempts.
At that moment, they claimed that the pilot planned everything to arrive a few minutes early. I don't know if it was on purpose or not. But that's what helped these drones not arrive on time. They couldn't get close in time. When they land is when the drones start to arrive. A few minutes later, he had already gotten off the plane. But let's say that in the calculation of the drones' arrival, it was exactly at the arrival of Vladimir Zelensky. Here, to this place, to Dublin. Specifically in France, this situation also happens with submarines, with drones flying over submarines. And notice that today, Dmitry Medvedev, as we mentioned this afternoon, made a threat saying that he will launch or send submarines to France. Not to this area, but to the southern part. Well, actually, they say more like through the northern part. Exactly, because these submarines, which are small and have been seen in Sweden around the Baltic Sea, are coming from here. They've been around lately. Just like the Russians haven't built aircraft carriers, but they have been building more submarines. So small submarines keep appearing all over this area of the Baltic Sea. What have the Swedes said? They've responded that at least once a week. In recent months, at least once a week, they encounter one of these submarines in the waters near their territory. The French have been warning about the risk with these submarines since we end up sailing through those waters. So, well, it's also a really serious issue. There's a wave of sightings. And it goes beyond, at least in my opinion, it's a wave of sightings that goes beyond the war with Ukraine. This seems like it's a matter of potential conflict. It's an impressive amount of observation of objects or drones. But some of them don't have the characteristics like the Shahed, which are clearly visible, and you say, oh, well, is it a Shahed or is it... I mean, you can identify them, but some of these drones, well, you can't manage to identify them. They've even shot at them with these rays. They've even shot at them with gunfire. They haven't been able to, they followed them too, but they haven't been able to, let's say, reach them. There are several suspicions. The case of the spy drones or surveillance drones that the Russians have, they could be operating from ghost ships. These ghost ships are all around the world, but many of them operate in the Baltic, in the North Sea, in the Mediterranean, in the Persian Gulf, in the East. What's the name of the Red Sea? I mean, they're in many places, all the way to India. Well, they operate in many areas, but some of them don't even carry oil. Some of them carry other types of cargo. But that's how it is. In the Black Sea, 3 were recently shot down and sunk. And another one, I don't remember where, was the 4th. Do you remember? In Africa, near Namibia, I think, around this area of Senegal. No, yes, I think so. Around here, yes, exactly, Senegal, near the port of Dakar. And well,
there's one right now in front of Belgium that got stranded there. They are...
Yes. These drones supposedly haven't been leaving these ships, but the truth is that so far, when they've stopped them, they haven't been able to find any drones. I mean, because there have been a couple of them. A couple of these ships have been stopped by France, for example. Yes, and they went in and have them detained. It's a Chinese captain and everything. But it's not known they haven't found any drones. There's still doubt whether they are really drones or if they are the drones they claim or if it's something else or drones from another country or something different. The truth is, well, that's the big question there.
Yes, for example, recently in Romania, a Shahed type drone entered and was shot down. In fact, the next day they invited the ambassador, and outside the embassy, they had, well, not the embassy, but the Romanian government. They had a Shahed there so he could see it, not to deny it was theirs.
In the case of Romania and Poland, it's always been the Shahed. I mean, it's pretty clear what kind of drones they are. They've even shown them the images, the parts. On that occasion, to the ambassador or consul, I can't recall which, they showed him this drone you're talking about. Huge. Because when you see the Shahed, they look like little things, but actually those drones are big.
They're actually quite big.
They're quite big. But anyway, the thing is that they are identified. I mean, it's very clear what kind of drones they are. In the other cases, it hasn't been like that. I mean, I think we should differentiate. It seems like there are different cases, at least for now. No, not until they bring them down or detect them.
Or a different drone.
Or some kind of different drone, or, I mean, yeah, who knows what it could be there. But anyway, let's move on to other topics. Let's talk about other important matters happening in the world. It says there's a report. This was published by La Silla Rota and shared on social media, showing that a car bomb exploded at the facilities of the Cahuayana Community Police in Cahuayana, Michoacán. They are already reporting at least one death, the person who was in the truck, according to a report. It's published. It exploded in Las Cahuayana, Michoacán. One person dead. It was in a truck. We have to remember that it's been there for many years, and that when presidents come and go, each bringing new solutions, sometimes more or less war with or without hugs, the point is that it doesn't get solved. I mean, regardless of what they've tried, it doesn't get solved. It always stays at a very high level of violence. I mean, honestly, it's really terrible. The other day, I was telling you about an Uber driver, a man from Uber, who told me a series of stories he experienced in Michoacán. He's from there, and you think it's like a movie, really, honestly. And this man had experience, at least that's what he told me, that he had experience in the security field and all that. But he says it's really complicated. I mean, sometimes the governments are colluding, sometimes they're not. Regardless. And if not, there are still many groups operating there, and to this day they keep operating, and the strategies on this issue keep failing. Honestly, hearing about car bombs is truly shocking. It seems like we're talking about another country or another era, but it's not. It's this time, and these things keep happening. The truth is, yes, this is really, really shocking. But anyway, let's move on to other important topics. Well, it seems like this is changing the rules of the game regarding the Pentagon, because the Pentagon is operating more and more so that the media can't report. And also, look, when a government starts attacking the press, when a government starts worrying too much about what the media says, yes, it's because it's a vulnerable government. Yes, that's all. A government that becomes cold toward the media or press is a weak government. It's a government that feels vulnerable, that knows it's doing things wrong and is hypersensitive. It's allergic to criticism, and this happens in many countries. By the way, it's not just something that's happening in the United States. At this point, the media are already confronting each other. I mean, now the media outlets that have the resources and those that have a decent budget are already facing each other in court. This time, the New York Times is suing the United States Department of Defense for imposing more restrictions on journalists, even forcing them to sign a 21-page form that limits access even to their own sources. In other words, they can't even go to the sources anymore because simply by signing, they're forced not to go to them. It limits their access to basic sources of information, controls the use of information, and even allows them to revoke accreditations whenever they want. You ask an uncomfortable question: accreditation revoked? Haven't we seen that before? In which country have we seen this lately? In recent years, well, I mean, we've seen it clearly here, and not just here. Federal government, state governments. Let's go. Those is becoming like a kind of epidemic of fear of information, fear of being questioned. And they prefer, well, constantly tailored questions. Luckily, there is still critical journalism. Luckily, they at least try to maintain that balance, but it's really tough. The other day, you mentioned to me a very interesting quote from a former United States president, one of the founding fathers.
One of the founding fathers of the United States, Jefferson. He said that if he had to choose between living in a country with a government but no press, or a country with press but no government, he would prefer to live in the latter. In other words, freedom of the press is super important, and freedom of opinion is basically the foundation of the United States as we know it. Well, that's what the United States was some years ago, because it's not like that anymore. The reality is that it's not anymore.
But how interesting that a person from that time, from the 1700s, saw that it was more important to have free information than to have a government, even more important than the existence of a government itself. I mean, that's the level at which this gentleman saw it, who was clearly a visionary. The newspaper, the New York Times, claims that these rules violate nothing less than the First Amendment and seek to close the doors of the Pentagon. It aims to block press access. The governments in general already have power. The power of the state is strong. The power of the state is not something trivial. That's why we want to have politicians who are, let's say, stable, mentally healthy. We want to have human politicians, right? Everyone wants empathy for the human side. That's the ideal. Obviously, yes, but suddenly not anymore. That's it. And they're not just lacking empathy, but they also use the state to crush any uncomfortable questions. Okay, us. And look, the only power the press has is the word. I mean, it's information, but that's it. It isn't real power. It's not actual power. I mean, it's really a power of freedom and of the press applied to information, nothing more. But in the case we're experiencing now, which is totally unusual, the United States, well, this is concerning since temptations for other governments to get involved will continue. And look, you can do this and they're going to keep doing it. Other big networks will keep doing it too. Even Fox News, which is super, well, pro-Trump and all that, they have been very critical and have said they reject the conditions that the Pentagon is imposing on journalists. I mean, even the favorable media, the ones that are always applauding almost at a propaganda level everything Trump does, even they say this just can't work like this. I mean, you can't have this kind of censorship and self-censorship happening at the same time because they give them no other way out.
Exactly, and well, the Pentagon defends these policies, obviously claiming that they seek to prevent leaks that could put national security at risk. But various press organizations warn above all about the danger of self-censorship. In the end, the reality is that the media, before publishing anything of this level, do not always verify that national security is not being put at risk. It's like a rule within journalism.
And I mean, besides, we're talking about any media outlet, we're talking about media that have been around forever. Some media outlets have operated for over a century. This situation is tremendous. But then there are other ways of, let's say, censoring, for example, this idea of taking away visas, right? Well, today I saw an editorial in Reforma by this journalist, Jorge Ramos. The comment was interesting because he discussed this, saying freedom of the press is ending in the United States. And well, he said that we should continue to be critical and fight precisely against this and against the vulnerability that governments have. On some occasions, when they feel weak, when they feel, let's say, with little support, they start to get nervous in the face of any uncomfortable question.
Exactly. Well, yes, that too. Today, Donald Trump's administration orders embassy officials to deny visas to people who are dedicated to fact-checking or who have this job of fighting against misinformation, which we often see in many bought-out media outlets or communicators. Here on YouTube, there are quite a few who already have a government narrative, whether they're supporting you or being paid. And, well, right now the administration is going to prohibit those people from being given visas. What the State Department says is that they want to prevent, as they put it, foreigners from coming to the United States to work as censors and to silence Americans. This comes after Reuters reported the existence of a cable that was sent to the embassy and United States consulates on December 2nd, where they told officials that they should deny visa applications if they found evidence that they were responsible for or complicit in the censorship or attempted censorship of protected speech in the United States.
Well, I mean, that's another way to put pressure.
Yes, of course. I mean, if you don't say if you don't just post anything, my view, for example, of what happened on January 6th, then you can't come in.
They'll revoke your visa immediately. If you're just being critical or providing information, they might say no because they don't want you to share that information. I don't want you discussing certain things happening with migrants, that kind of stuff.
This includes visas for journalists, also for tourists, and these are being reviewed, especially what's on social media.
That's the issue. Let's move on to other important topics. Yes, the ground does open up in Scotland. I mean, it's impressive how the satellite image of this line looks. Look, just the perfection of an opening, do you see? I mean, it's mind-blowing. Well, what we're looking at is a satellite image in which it said that this is, well, a terrestrial scar, so to speak, right? What does this mean? What's happening? Why is this opening occurring under Scotland? Well, it would be revealing what would be the rocky core, which would be key to understanding geological faults around the world. British scientists have accessed for the first time an almost 1,500-meter rocky core extracted from the Great Glen Fault. This structure is look at its length, 995 kilometers, which crosses Scotland for 995 kilometers. I mean, it's practically the distance from Monterrey to Mexico City. Yes, that's it. That line is impressively long. I mean, by plane it would take you about an hour, right? It takes about an hour to cross by commercial plane. If there were a highway, well, you could drive it in about 10 hours. Identify redundant phrases and filler words. Maintain original meaning and speaker perspective. Preserve all proper names or locations. Ensure grammar and clarity in the shortened text. Confirm at least 13% length reduction. Shorten text. Next, it's mostly calm, but 10 hours is still a lot, especially since there isn't a highway, I think. The sample shows how well these kinds of places are helping us understand how faults work. This core offers, they say, an unprecedented opportunity to study how hot fluids have altered rocks at great depths, helping in the formation of faults. For example, the San Andreas Fault. Isn't this then honestly a fascinating topic?
Exactly, it's amazing. All the nooks and crannies that are scars from who knows how many billions of years on Earth and everything there is to investigate.
Well, that too.
The fault was formed about 400 million years ago during a collision of the ancient continents. And it's a seismic zone that remains active to this day, with hundreds of tremors detected every year in the United Kingdom. The research could obviously change since what we understand about global tectonic processes and how the major fractures of the Earth's crust behave. If they keep moving at the story's end?
Yes, they keep moving,
Like the one in Africa who says she'll leave.
That's exactly right, says the doctor. Romesh Palamakumbura, a geologist from the DGS, says the new sample allows us to study the processes of the largest fault zone in the United Kingdom. He says those processes are key to understanding the planet. Well, there it is. I'm not saying it. You are. Well, it's a huge fault, but they're also making the most of it, at least scientifically speaking. Isn't it impressive? Also, yeah, since we're talking about images, when showing this image, look, It's an image of what they are like. Obviously a drawing, not the design, but what the Polish want to show there. These are Polish satellites. These little squares here are satellites from Poland, which were one of them. Already launched. A military satellite launched by SpaceX by the Falcon 9. Yes, it was launched into space, obviously. And this one? And it's the first time they've managed to build a military satellite 100% on their own without anyone helping them. Basically, it's not a satellite that's going to help them, for example, to have a better view, to be more precise when using the GMAS, for example, to spot any risk coming from Russia or Belarus. They're going to do that with this military satellite, and they're going to... 2 more identical satellites are already under construction, so they can have 3 military satellites of that level. Let's say they're happy since it's already running. Not long ago, we talked when SpaceX launched it, and now, well, they've confirmed that it's operational, that it's in operation. That's good. It's part, let's say, of these countries that little by little are also getting into space, right? Poland is a country that 20 years ago was really just starting to build up its economy. Right now, it's already a country that launches its own satellites, and besides, it's one of those countries. Hopefully one day the same will happen with Venezuela in the sense that it is. It was the country that generated the most migration outward, yes, but now, in the last 2 decades, it's the country that has generated the most returns, repatriation. I'm not sure what to call it, but it's about people returning from Poland who previously lived in the United States, England, or elsewhere, and who have come back. Because the economy has taken off, things have gone well for them, and the country has made positive progress in the economy, education, technology, and more. It is an interesting matter. And by the way, greetings to Carlos from Poland. I don't know if he's watching us right now, but we send our regards to the Hispanic community living in Poland. There is a community over there as well. Just like there are Latinos in Taiwan, there are also some obviously in Poland. Let's move on to other important matters. What else? What else is out there?
Well, there's a report because a lot of dirt is coming out, right, about the case from September 12th, the attack that the United States carried out on that boat, which, well, it turned out later that there were 2 attacks and supposedly the second one was ordered. Afterward, it doesn't seem so strange, right? Because Admiral Bradley made the decision. And, well, one thing that has really caught people's attention is, for example, the fact that 2 people survived after the first attack. They held on to the remains of the little boat for 45 minutes, and at one point they signaled for help. Some people believe they were asking for help. Maybe they saw a United States plane there, and then the second attack happened. Now, what has been revealed is that this boat wasn't even heading to the United States. It was actually going toward going toward Trinidad and Tobago. And, well, this has drawn a lot of attention because at the end of the day, the motivation for those attacks is that the drugs are going to the United States. But when they're not even going to the United States, well, you also think, well, you're just shooting at everyone, at anyone.
At that moment, there they ask Pete, who is the Secretary of War, when he is going to release this information, this video, where they shoot with this double attack. Because Donald Trump said yes to release it, and what he does is dodge the question. If we're going to analyze it, we're going to see it. Let's see. He starts saying random things like, we're going to analyze I don't know what, and no. He starts making comments that sound technical, just to give the impression that maybe for security, maybe for whoever's security.
Who else but himself?
Well, yeah, that's all. The point is that it took them 45 minutes to shoot again because there was smoke. That whole area filled with smoke and there was no visibility. So, until it clears, until they can see, they realize they're alive and they start again.
Another point mentioned was that someone had received a second injection, though I don't recall who it was. Because they were afraid that with the radio, others would be informed that that they were attacking the United States. But later, Admiral Bradley, who is supposedly the one who makes the decision for the second attack, He told Congress on Friday that no, they had none.
Yes, that's what was said. Those who saw the image say they don't have anything. They don't have anything. In fact, they don't even have clothes. Because due to the explosion and everything, you can see that they even fall without clothes. I mean, you can see that they don't. They weren't just asking for help. The situation, it's gotten complicated for the Secretary of War. Even among the Republicans themselves, he has been harshly criticized. Now, let's address other important matters. Well, the question here is whether something is watching us from behind, and the truth is, it suddenly behaves strangely. Super interesting, super strange. This comet or whatever it is. Meanwhile, the consensus is that it's a comet, right? But as the topic keeps moving forward and more things keep being discovered, it never ceases to amaze. And today there were 3 different reports. We'll now discuss the third topic, which is an update on its chemistry. Yes, and this still keeps generating more interest regardless of what might come up. Notice that the object would have been observed by ALMA. That's in Chile, right? That's where it was observed for the first time, and from there its chemistry has been studied. And now, in the latest update, it has been found, it's been updated that, in fact, it is confirmed. It's confirmed it has it. For example, methanol, it's confirmed that it has hydrogen cyanide, 2 molecules, both hydrogen cyanide and methanol would be key molecules in the chemistry of life. That catches their attention. One reason is that if it turns out to be just a natural comet, they'd say, hey, these bring the chemicals that generate life when they arrive on a planet with the right conditions. For example, here with Earth. From the famous panspermia theory, that a comet arrived with these kinds of elements that triggered life here on the planet. No, but that's an interesting point, he says. The methanol emissions increased as it got closer to the sun. It approached the sun, the methanol increased, while the hydrogen cyanide decreased, suggesting that there are very complex chemical processes that are not common in a normal comet. See, methanol, he says, seems to be generated both in the gas column and in the environment around the object. While this cyanide I'm telling you about comes from inside the nucleus, this molecule, he says, is considered a precursor to amino acids and sugars essential for life to exist. Methanol is involved in biological processes in plants and microorganisms, and while cyanide is toxic at high levels, it remains essential in the formation of the basis of DNA and ribonucleic acid. That's also super interesting because we're talking about basic and important elements of life, he says. And this is where Tree and Atlas come in to ask. This object is not, I'm going to say it just as he says it, only in Spanish, says Tree and Atlas. He is the gardener who sows life through passion. He is a serial killer who spreads interstellar poison. He asked that question just a little while ago when he posted, "This is the gardener who sows life." Either to panspermia through this chemistry, or he is a serial killer who spreads interstellar poison. In other words, it could bring some chemical that could be dangerous for life as well, just as it can bring life or elements of life. It could also bring elements or some kind of situation. We must remember there's a chance even space viruses could come, right? Of course.
Of course, yes.
And that's also an interesting topic. So, well, look, obviously, it's not coming to Earth, so there's nothing to worry about. But what I mean is that it's interesting. Well, this analysis concludes it. These findings that are being made could change the interpretation of these interstellar objects, not just this one, but others as well. That they come in the future thinking about the risks that these types of objects could generate. In the event that any of them end up pointing toward planet Earth, well, obviously, fortunately, this one isn't coming here, but it's interesting, he says. The proportion of methanol and hydrogen cyanide is abnormally high, suggesting that its nature, he says, is more favorable for chemistry and biology. No, that's just another update that keeps getting confirmed little by little. More data will surely come. Today there was a lot of data. Today there was data, and I hope you watched the previous videos. There was data about the size, there was data and an update about what else it was, about the density, about the halo. I mean, there was some very interesting data, hopefully, well, since some of them are really crazy. But anyway, let's get to the core itself, exactly to the core, and well, let's move on to other matters. And the 19th is getting closer. There's not much time left for us to see things a little more clearly.
We only have 13 days left of this.
13 days to observe this part. I mean, after that, we'll have to keep watching the speed, whether it decreases or increases. No, because they mentioned entering Gill's radius and it's still moving very fast, I think. The last speed, it was 222,000 kilometers. It was going at 210,000 kilometers per hour. Then at 245,000, now at 220,000. I think it wasn't, that's more or less the calculation they make, right? But anyway, what else? Let's go now. Other interesting matters as well. This attack is being updated, and today, just like Ukraine received multiple attacks, there were some counterattacks that have surprised once again. These are attacks that go from Ukraine to different parts of Russia. These increasingly frequent operations from Ukraine, in which, well, they are now starting to respond not only to the troops that are inside invading, but also to military targets on the Russian side.
Not exactly. There were several attacks. They are generally always in logistics areas like refineries or places where they have weapons depots or factories, whether for drones or certain fuels for missiles. But well, those attacks from Ukraine towards Russia are still happening. But also today, there is currently an attack happening in a city called Kremenchuk, also in the Poltava region. Well, it's known that these are drones, and well, there are already reports of explosions. And unfortunately, as we always see when winter approaches, there are attacks on power areas that affect heating and the lives of civilians.
Well, that's terrible. Above all, because this time, if in recent years they were lucky, those were not such cold years. Not like it can be in a country like Ukraine, right? This time it seems that winter was going to have more vortices, more cold, and that, well, that's also the case. It's worrying what might happen there, especially to civilians. It's not just happening since yesterday. I think it was 100 million euros from Germany specifically, just for energy purposes. Help is starting to arrive. That's all. It's for that, considering it's a tough winter, and obviously resources will be needed there, whether it's shelters, heaters, etc., because sometimes the blackouts can last a while.
Yes, I think about a year or two ago, what they did was set up heating zones. So they said they were like small tents where you could charge your phone. Since there was no power, you could charge your phone there. There were places to warm up. There was food. There was coffee. So people could have somewhere to warm up and charge their phones for a bit. No, of course.
Well, let's see how things go for them this winter. We'll be keeping an eye on it. Let's move on to another important topic. Hey, well, the polar vortex is already here. It's arrived. It's here now. And well, it likes to dance the cha-cha-cha, right? I mean, really a polar vortex that has been, well, very much warned about that it was coming strong. The polar vortex is already having an effect. This Arctic air and extreme snow are hitting from Dakota all the way to New York, not just with snow or cold, but an element that, well, today they were saying could be the most dangerous, which is the wind, because the wind can cause hypothermia, even with temperatures that aren't that freezing, but it can cause hypothermia. This topic, the vortex, well, because of the effect that is created, what they call the wind chill and all of this, right? What's happening with this phenomenon? What can we expect from this, the famous vortex? Well, let's get into the details. The threat has intensified in the Midwest of the United States, affecting more than 60 million people from Montana to New York. Authorities have issued alerts for snow accumulation of up to 15 centimeters and also dangerous road conditions.
In Chicago, Detroit, and Minneapolis, major airports may face cancellations and delays during peak travel season. No, because it's already Christmas and people are traveling a lot. Snow has already started to cover certain key areas, and a wintry mix and ice are expected. In cities like Kansas City and St. Louis, where nighttime freezing could make road conditions worse. And the phenomenon has intensified with the arrival of this polar vortex, which has brought Arctic air that could bring the lowest temperatures of the season in several regions of the north. And for tomorrow, Sunday, the system will move toward the Appalachians and New England, reducing its intensity but maintaining the risk of ice and extreme cold in populated areas.
What we're seeing is the entry of the vortex that's going to arrive, well, the second or third vortex that will come in on December 12th. Yes, this upcoming December 12th, there will be temperatures at polar levels within the United States, in some places even down to minus 30 degrees Celsius. For example, in Iowa, Minnesota, North Dakota, and South Dakota, the temperatures are extremely cold. We're talking about if you go outside for a little while, you have to protect your ears. I mean, your ears, your nose, that's how it is. And yes, if you get distracted for a moment, you don't even notice, right? Because also, from what I've been told, you don't feel it. And then suddenly, hey, it turns out you had a frozen finger or a piece of your ear. This guy was telling me about it, a relative we have over there in Chicago. That suddenly, well, it's very common to see this, and this is Chicago, and there are still other places, even tougher places, that suddenly it's common to see that the police officers, the mailmen, some workers who have to be out and about, he says, suddenly you see them missing a piece of their ear. Suddenly you see them missing a finger, for example. Sometimes people get hypothermia without realizing it, and by the time they do, it's already too late, right? So they have to constantly check themselves, touch themselves, and so on to make sure they're not neglecting any area. It's not carelessness. They're just used to going out, working, and coming back each day. But suddenly, a moment of carelessness can cost you maybe a piece of your ear or something, right? So yes, obviously it's tremendous. A wintry mix of ice is also expected in cities like Kansas. I don't know if you practice it. Well, just keep that in mind too. They're in San Luis as well. Obviously, this storm is complicating the normal logistics of travel and flights, of everything that, well, is usually normal throughout the year. At this point, it's usually not this harsh, but, well, it just happened that the toughest part came a bit earlier. The threat to road safety is significant, says the National Weather Service, especially in areas where the snow is melting and then refreezes, forming ice. And that's where the problem is. Not so much the snow itself, but the ice is what creates the most complicated situation. Greetings, by the way, to the community, especially those in the north, who have been sending us some videos and messages about how things are going. Thank you very much, and we'll try to keep you updated here. We've made a playlist, by the way. There are a bunch of playlists on the channel, so you can find information more quickly. For example, topics on Ukraine, Israel, and the climate are all included. Anything climate related is added there. There it is. Sometimes I get lost, but the playlist is there. Don't you save it? And it will be updated every day with information about the climate or about Ukraine or about technology topics or seismic topics. Everything we talk about, but organized by topic there, right? Just so you keep that in mind, that's all. Just to quickly tell our friends in Mexico that we're also experiencing this cold front here. This cold front has also been felt, especially in the northern and central parts of the country. In Chihuahua, we can already see temperatures close to 0 degrees tomorrow, Sunday. Some areas will be nearly at 0 degrees. If you're in the mountains, it's already minus 5 to minus 10 degrees Celsius, much colder there. But let's say at an altitude that's more or less close to sea level, it's around those temperatures, and further towards the center or Mexico City, which is high. Since it's already cool, it'll be a bit cold too, 9 degrees Celsius. It's not getting that intense yet, but, well, we should also pay attention to that part, right? Quickly. How is it going to be? The accumulation of water, no. The accumulation of potential rain, no. There we see it. It's the accumulation of rain towards that area. The Gulf area is basically where you'll see more humidity, which is basically what it is. Tamaulipas and Veracruz. Tamaulipas, just the Tampico area. Don't think it's for Victoria or Matamoros. Tampico? A little chance of rain. Costa Rica also with some rain. Maybe even Querétaro. The rain could extend there. If we zoom out a bit and look towards Monday and Tuesday, then we can see a higher chance of rain. Right? Keep that in mind as well. Starting tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, the humidity will start to spread. Not to mention that Villahermosa, Tabasco, Baja Yucatan, and the entire Yucatan Peninsula will have chances of rain. No, we can see it there towards Chiapas as well, and Villahermosa, Tabasco. We also see the central part of the country with chances of rain. There will be chances of rain for at least the next 3 or 4 days where we are, while in other areas it's clearing up. That's how it's been all week with rain. Now, starting tomorrow, it's going to gradually clear up more and more, and by around Thursday, we'll even have clear skies. We're going to be around 30 degrees Celsius or colder. In theory, unless another front surprises us, next Thursday we should be around 30 degrees. Here in Monterrey, it's going to be really nice with sun, 30 degrees, and at night, really cool. I mean, really great, really, really strange, and also really weird. But if you notice, look, in the coming days, there's no humidity, no rain for Baja California, for practically all of California and Nevada. But for Oregon and Washington, there's a lot of humidity with rain, snow, everything together. It's not a story. So over there, there's definitely more activity. We also see it toward the southeast of the United States with chances of rain, but that's mainly water drizzle, not heavy rain, drizzle and rain. And that's how we see it when it comes to new snow. Well, that's a different topic, right? If we see it as new snow, this is the area that could have the highest chances. It includes California, Nevada is there, and it even covers Colorado. Utah, Wyoming, South Dakota, not to mention North Dakota, this whole area in the northern United States, up to New York and all this area with chances of snow. Let's discuss other matters. How have you been? What are people saying? Thanks to everyone in the community watching us live. Greetings to Walter Osorio. Hey, Walter, there are many Walters here today. By the way, I always say hi and say, hey, Walter, and I think it's Walter Osorio, but then I see it's someone else.
Walter Osorio, he always has Mexico in him.
Yeah, no, I know.
He says, Tapatia woke up. Oh, she woke up. It rained at my ranch. Okay, it hadn't rained in a long time. It's cool, but nice, says Tapatia.
Really great. It's really strange here.
It started raining last night, like when they were to leave. And well, it rained all night, but yes, softly, yes. But in the morning, it stopped raining. The clothes are soaked, waiting to be hung up. Greetings to Esteban. Greetings, Nestor. He says, greetings to Esteban.
Very good. Who else is out there? Says Francisco Arce. Thank you very much, Yo-Yo. How are you? How have you been? Benedicto Adilson sends his greetings to the entire Tapatia community. Big greetings,
says Martin Gutierrez. That earthquake was a magnitude 7 at a depth of 10 kilometers, which means it was felt strongly. Do you have any information? Yes, Martin. We already mentioned it at the beginning.
We discussed it right at the start.
Greetings. Also to the depth.
It ended up at the end. Let's see how it ended up. Yes, it ended up at 10 kilometers. The final data shows it ended up at 10 kilometers. We saw it there at the beginning of the video. Please check it out. And what else? What else is out there?
Greetings to Yo-Yo Low Dice Black Snow, says Yo-Yo. Hello, Yo-Yo, Gerardo Hernandez, and whoever gives the Draper, he says. I'm enjoying a strawberry smoothie and a veggie tuna sandwich with mayo. We're being healthy, so tasty.
No, but the tuna is really good, very tasty. Yes, besides.
It's my big snack, what I used to make. I love it.
Are we good with sandwiches, or do you mean this one by itself?
I love it like this, with a bunch of pickles.
The pickles, that's what I wanted to say. For me, in my case, this carrot that comes in, what's it called?
Those strips, I don't know.
No, but the carrot that comes in cans and stuff, little cans.
Yes.
I don't know, pickled or I don't know.
Pickled, yes, pickled.
Yeah, those carrots in pieces, and then you put a spoonful of mayonnaise on top, and you already have a sandwich here with everything, protein and all. Greetings, how have you been? Leonardo Adelson, Maria Ortiz, how have you been? Hello, what's up? How's Colombia? How are you all doing over there?
says Martin Pepe. Sorry, but honestly, it's outrageous that people are killed, no matter how much of a trafficker they are. They let the white-collar leaders go, including the president of Honduras, just because they're friends. Exactly, that's a criticism that was made. Which one? The pursuit of control over narcotics. If you let a guy out who's in jail for that...
Exactly. I mean, what's the logic? Honestly, yeah. There's zero logic, says Walter. I'm the only one. When I see the flag isn't there, I know it's not you. Exactly. Yeah, but sometimes I get confused because Walter isn't a common name. I mean, at least here in Mexico, it's not common. Sometimes I read Walter and think it's you, Walter, then realize it isn't. He says, Armando, how have you been? He also sends greetings, he says, from Chaco, Argentina. Thank you very much, Chaco. Greetings, Armando, all the way over there. How are things going? Over there, it's basically summer already, right? Armando, Leonardo, how are you doing, by the way? Also, parts of Brazil, even Argentina, in some areas in the north are experiencing a lot of heavy rain. What?
Yes, here, Leonardo says. He said that a country,
Sorry, where is it?
It's up there, he says. Just one country up.
More?
More. He moved. Yes, let me tell you about the case of the...
Let's see. Who was it?
There it is. It says, a country that trades freedom for security deserves neither. And it's in the century, where...
Where is it? Where is it?
Sorry.
Hey, I know I threw the core. No, I won't call. So,
yes, in the end, this whole security thing is just an excuse to cut off communication. Currently in Russia, you can't access X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Discord, sign up Viber, or Telegram. Also not to FaceTime, Snapchat, WhatsApp, or Roblox.
They went after everyone equally. They're getting really intense. There's something coming, like I said, a narcotization of Russia, of Venezuela. These are countries that are starting to isolate themselves more and more, and that's possibly very negative.
Greetings, Guy Miss Santa Cruz. How are you?
Greetings. Yeah, it's really hot, says Armando. Yeah, well, you guys are already on the other side, right? You know, I think I'm going to become Team Heat from now on. It's because of the exercise. Yeah, like right now it makes you drowsy.
Also, no, I feel like you get drowsy really easily. You feel that way on the small couch with your blanket and forget if you were about to do something, right? Or what is it? Yes. Greetings as well to Brezica, Francisco Arce Adelson, and Maragua01, since this is Maragua.
How are you? Hello?
Raul Sachs and Jose Sara. Do you like Jose Sara? Greetings also to Odilia Guzman.
Hi, Odilia. How are you? Very good.
Greetings to Madelia Fernandez, who says, thank you for the information. Greetings.
Says Martin Pepe. They say Venezuela is growing, you know? They're getting weapons from Russia and China, including radars for new F-35S and missiles, and they're even discussing the latest Russian models. How much of that is true? Look at what is known about China. So far, at least, I haven't seen anything about a Chinese plane arriving or anything like that. I don't doubt there could be help, but I haven't seen it. I mean, there's no evidence of that. What there's evidence of is a specific Russian plane that managed to land before things got even more intense. But once the warships were already there, I mean, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, a Russian plane arrived and landed. No one knew who was on board. There are only rumors, since they obviously won't confirm it. There are rumors that the plane was loaded with weapons, specifically things like devices that send out a signal to block global positioning system. Supposedly, that's the kind of stuff that was on that type of plane. So far, like I said, that part can't be confirmed, but I don't know. I don't doubt that at least they're trying to block the global positioning system signal. In case there are missile attacks, it's a way to throw them off, right? It would be from Russia, supposedly not, since they're the ones who have that technology.
Greetings to Merlin. How are you? Beatrice says he greets God and talks nonsense, but few listen. Only a small group follows him, according to Beatrice. Greetings, really just a few. Greetings to Jan. How are you, Jan? And he's also here. Francisco Arce says the problem is the port of Lázaro Cárdenas in Michoacán, where many things enter.
That's the problem everywhere. I mean, that's the main reason. I mean, from there it's distributed to other places, so that's the problem. So it's surprising, right? I mean, when you hear about Michoacán and all that, people see it as really good, very good. We spent hours going there. But the other part is, well, it's always the security issue, always a problem, he says. Mercedes says she hopes her brother is watching them. She's shared them, but urges to keep going. There are people who prefer Facebook, right? Greetings, Mercedes. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you so much, Mercedes.
And, you know, we're always going to start uploading some videos to Facebook. Not so much news, but more things about discoveries and things like that, because Facebook always puts news and keeps blocking it for you. And they're always doing weird things. So, well, yeah, no. It's not really a place where we can feel comfortable, at least not for now. No, they said they were going to do things differently, but well, yeah.
They've already removed all inspections. Things were handled differently.
Yes. I mean, it says, is it possible that the study by the Chilean astronomer Carlos Muñoz Ferrada, who studied what he called the comet planet, could be the 13th from the back? Can you do a show about that? How are you? Actually, we already talked about that from the very beginning. I did check the data that this gentleman provided, but they match up with other kinds of things. No, not with this comet. I mean, not with this comet. They match up with some very surprising things from this gentleman. Honestly, he has some interesting stories, but they don't match up. Not even, yes, maybe perhaps with Oumuamua it could match up a little bit, but it doesn't match with this one, at least not so far. No, anyway, a very interesting character if you want. I'll come back to it later, because when the topic of the 13 Atlas first started, a lot of people asked about that. So I started to look into it to remember, because I had seen it before, to recall a bit about what this man was bringing. And well, no, I don't see that it matches with this one specifically. It doesn't mention greetings Gisela, it says Benedicto Leonardo, my star now Argentina. Mendoza has been here non-stop since noon. It's cool at 19 degrees, not harsh, very pleasant.
But they're in spring, right? Yes.
It's already late spring, he says. What analysis can you share? If things stay the same, Venezuela will heavily arm itself and will lose airlines. The dollar is rising and there's much divergence. Yes, Martin, unfortunately, if nothing changes, it seems like what's coming is isolation. I mean, if nothing changes, the problem that Trump will leave behind will be even bigger, right? He does solve things, but a bigger problem might remain. So who knows, right? But he sends a message. Look, I have it here. I don't know if you have it open, but I have it here. This Trump about this topic of not this one.
I didn't see it.
You didn't see it? Look, it's just that today all the Federación Internacional de Football Association stuff is gonna start for you. All the soccer stuff and everything. It seems like they're already focusing on that side, right? So Trump says, and let me see, I left it open here. I just didn't have time to make the summary, so I didn't mention it. That's why, but let me check for a second. Put it on, let's see. Well, here it is. Look, it says... Donald Trump says the following: Venezuela is not a threat. He says this when he is given the Peace Prize, not the Federación Internacional de Football Association won, the Federación Internacional de Football Association won, he goes for it. This comment then started to make everyone nervous. Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro said the Caribbean nation ensures regional security. Since Venezuela has faced military threats from the United States off its coasts, Maduro spoke about this and about the call with President Donald Trump, who has launched this campaign of ships. When receiving the Federación Internacional de Football Association Peace Award for his efforts to promote dialogue and détente in some of the world's most conflictive areas, he mentioned this issue, saying that Venezuela is not someone who is causing them. Come on, it's not a threat to the United States. You think so? He just said yes, that it's because he sends the craziest ones to them, and what about the drugs? And now he says, well, that Venezuela is not a threat. He doesn't say it's no longer a threat, but rather that it's not a threat in general. So what does this mean? Is it a nod to Maduro, like he's not going to do anything anymore, or what, right? Since we don't know, no one does. No, it's not clear. We'd have to check Polymark's bets, see if they've changed. It doesn't let you look, man.
Let's see what they say. Let's see if they switch to the other side. What else? Listen, today was good for those who don't protest the demonstrations. This is the Nobel Maria Corina requested.
In fact, they went down.
They barely went down.
They went down quite a bit.
Like this until next year?
If not, they didn't go down.
December 31, 2026?
Everyone.
Most of them went over there.
They lowered the bets from, do you remember? It was 44% the last time. Yes, now they believe it's 37% that will enter the United States by March 31. In 2020, 13% are betting this will happen by December 31. And now there's another one. There's a third date, which is December 31, but in 2026. And there, yes, it's 54%. So did they do it then? Yes, there's a majority that believes that, well, at least a small majority, because it's not by much. They think it's better if the United States operates, but it'll take longer, right? But that this situation is going to happen sooner or later, well, that's what they see. These bets draw attention to that, don't they? Anyway, well, what else is being put on?
Well, let's greet Antonio Garcia, who says, Pepe, but the media has been the worst mafia in the United States since Obama was in office. It's one of the many reasons why woke culture proliferated, and I'm not against being critical, but they're scary, says Antonio.
So you want to see what woke culture means to you, right? I mean, openness, freedom, so that there can be different ways of thinking. I mean, that's nonsense. All that stuff about woke culture and the woke war and all those things, that was invented by Trump and all the Make America Great Again people, and it just caught on. The main criticism is that being politically correct is considered bad. I mean that you are polite and that you allow for a diversity of opinions and a diversity of people just like there is in reality. That's what's wrong. That's something Trump made up and, well, something others, let's say from the far right, made up to create division in the country, to create division in people's thinking. So, is it wrong because an African American appeared in this movie? Is it wrong because a Latino appeared in this other movie? Why not? Well, why would a Latino appear in this movie? How is a gay person or a trans person going to appear? Oh, no, that's wrong. I mean, who decides that's wrong? Well, only the ultra-conservatives, the closed-minded people who have those kinds of problems, right? But that's a topic that is obviously manipulated. So, and for what? Precisely for that. To say that the media is this, the media is that, well, if they're telling you that, obviously it's to manipulate you, not for anything else. Is that a topic that has worked for them? Or is it also because there's an ultra-conservative mindset in a lot of the population, right? But that's a good topic. It's already a personal issue for each person. But obviously, I don't see it that way. There are all kinds of media, conservative, ultra-conservative, very liberal, and less liberal. You choose what media you watch, right? But here the problem is with all the media, and that's good. There has to be diversity of media. If I don't like a certain outlet, I don't watch it, but it should exist, and I defend its right to exist, and it's good that it does. I don't agree with him. Several YouTubers here have said they're Russian propaganda. Many of you have mentioned them, and I've told you I don't like them. They seem like propaganda to me. But I defend their right to exist, and I don't want them to be taken down because it's about taking them down. And no, don't take anyone down. There should be diversity. There should be all kinds of opinions. There has to be. It's necessary to have all kinds of this. Is it that I just dislike that post's viewpoint? Comment your disagreement, give an argument, or simply ignore it. But there must be diversity, and the issue now is that they don't want it. Those are the bad ones. And if you fall into that, then you're falling into the narrative of Trump and all kinds of characters. Don't fall into that topic. There has to be diversity. It's necessary. It's urgent. It's important to have diversity. Even if you really can't stand them, and believe me, there are some I just can't stand. They're just unbearable. Aren't these guys here just impossible to deal with? That's what I think now. But if you ask me, take them away? Not even as a joke? Not even as a joke? And there are quite a few, so I can't even stand to see them. But I would defend the position that they should be there. There have to be different voices, right? Isn't that a necessity? It's important for that to be the case. Well, but anyway, maybe it's just this trend, right? That it's because the culture, I'm not sure which, it depends on each person. It's a personal choice. The vast majority of what they say, those are lies, basically. But anyway, what else?
Greetings to Laura, who says, "Good evening. Hello. Today they've seen videos of a large deployment of weapons in Puerto Rico," says Laura.
Hello, how have you been? Very good.
Right? If you've seen anything about Puerto Rico.
About weapons, about weapons.
No, nothing.
I haven't seen anything.
Greetings, Angelica Resendiz. How are you, Angelica? And also Benedicto. We also have Enrique, Eduardo, and all of you. But I had never seen a president as hypocritical as Donald. If you don't know, he is super hypocritical.
It's double standards.
I don't know if people sometimes just don't want to see it, but he has things he says that are so hypocritical that even many who supported him noticed. Even the really crazy ones, not just the far right, have already abandoned him because they say he's not supporting what we believed in. For example, that's not just something from the far right, it's from a lot of people on the left too.
In fact,
Everyone and other people who, well, are really, really crazy, right? But they also abandoned him because of this hypocrisy.
exactly. If diversity of opinions represents freedom and democracy, I mean, a lot of people say they defend freedom and democracy, and then they post things like what Lucifer posts here. I'm against woke culture. It's not about being against it, my friend, honestly. With all due respect, my friend, I mean, it's about being against another human being. They have every right to express their freedom. I mean, honestly, in that case, I think you really have to be very open and tolerant and let everyone live their life the way they have to live it. I mean, that's it. Or maybe they don't want to live in a democracy. Maybe they want to live in a dictatorship, something like that. It's very strange, isn't it? That part, honestly, I just don't understand. Freedom of speech, freedom to be, freedom to live. It's not that it bothers me because they dress like that, because they say, please, why does it bother you? I mean, focus on yourself, live your life, respect others, and today what happened at the Colombian border. Hi, how have you been? Hello, greetings, Jose Luis, how have you been? Greetings, Tapatia, hello, how are you? What's new?
Greetings to Romando Antonio. How's Venezuela? Beautiful country. Here in Argentina, there are many Venezuelan brothers, very good people. It's time to remove Maduro. Regards.
Greetings, Armando. How have you been? Very good. He says we must understand each other's viewpoints when opinions differ. Fabi, greetings. Very good. Benedicto, hi, what's up? Martin says if the ex-governor dies in prison, there's a lot of extremism and fanaticism everywhere. He says fascism. I think maybe yes.
Hello, Billy Hernandez. How are you?
Greetings.
Says censorship in Mexico. Hernandez says Jose claims there's no censorship, but several people insist there is. Many media outlets and YouTubers speak harshly about the president. There's a lot of freedom on that topic, and in the United States, everything is on YouTube too.
There are people who are super anti-Trump, super pro-Trump, but censorship. Let me tell you how it kind of works, okay? I mean, it depends on the topic, right? I mean, first there's self-censorship, which is a kind of censorship, right? And it's self-imposed. Not by choice, but because many times, well, there are pressures, there are threats, there are fears, there are platforms that make you self-censor, right? Some things can be posted on Twitter. I mean, supposedly they came saying it was about freedom and all that, but no, it's only the freedom for the things he likes, right? That's it, but it's not freedom. I mean, and then there's also the Facebook part, right? I mean, there are platforms that have this double standard, as they say. And the reality is that most of the censorship that happens here in Mexico has to do either with the government or it has to do with issues like substance trafficking and all that kind of thing. I mean, everything related to the narcos and all that, right? I mean, that's where a lot of the censorship comes from, especially on local issues, right? For example, a journalist comes in, does a report like, hey, this situation happened, this politician is involved here, or this situation is happening. Where is it? Well, they're asking for protection money in this place, and they go to that journalist and say, are you going to keep quiet? Usually they warn them 2 or 3 times, and if not, if they keep reporting what they're reporting, well, there are consequences. Sometimes on the first warning, right? Most of the time, they usually give warnings, not messages about what not to do. This, yes, and almost always it's about traffic issues, right? That's usually the toughest part. There's also another kind of censorship, like limiting which journalists can attend the morning press conference by manipulating who is allowed in. There are some who ask questions, like Reina, for example. I mean, she does ask questions, and that's it. You know that yesterday they just told her you can visit weekly or even monthly, but sometimes they just leave her out. Why? Because if they question, then the journalist who does question gets fewer opportunities. I mean, they say, no, I'm not censoring you. I give you space and you come in once a month, right? So it's like censorship, kind of like they want to supposedly soften it. The problem is it exists. If it happens, there's nothing you can do and the temptation just keeps growing. That's how it is, right? I mean, they're always pushing further to see how far the media will go. People don't realize that censorship is happening. But also at the same time, fortunately, there are still a lot of critics of the people. If both independent and non-independent journalists criticize the same people, I'm not sure what specific criticisms they make. I mean, there is still a kind of freedom without a fight for freedom. It's a fight that continues for that freedom of expression, which, well, clearly doesn't always happen, right?
Says Martin Gutierrez, Trump only stirs up trouble and protects his supporters' wallets. Well, even the same Americans go through and struggle. I mean, they're having really tough problems with the cuts. It's a topic that nobody wants to talk about. The percentage of small businesses going bankrupt has gone up a lot. They showed this number on Fox News, for example, but they tried to justify it. I mean, how can you justify that they're going bankrupt? With small businesses, it means that people can't really start a business.
Exactly. If you want to, good evening, everyone, as censorship in Mexico is a complex issue. The reforms are concerning because their ambiguity could let the government abuse the law. That's an issue that, I mean, there will be abuses by the government. I mean, definitely with that reform, the way it's being attempted, it's going to happen sooner or later. Right now, that's not the case, so we won't use it. So why include it in the reform? But you're right, Giles, it's serious. And Trump was next to the president, Mexico Pepe. It could be, yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah.
He arrived late.
We mentioned on the broadcast that he hadn't arrived because up until that moment, he hadn't arrived. But later, the president arrived and the Canadian Prime Minister Trump and the Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum were there. So the three of them were there, and I mean, the images show them all smiling, all three of them and everything. Yeah. Bringing up the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender topic and making fun of it and everything. Let him make fun of it. Let him say whatever he wants. I mean, there should be freedom in every sense, right? I mean, just like I don't want people saying certain things on my channel. You know, there are some words I just don't want to come up. Well, you know, you say it's your channel, it's your house, but I can't limit what people say on another channel or somewhere else. I mean, the freedom that you ask for on one side should be asked for everywhere. That's what's interesting. It's better to have too much freedom than to start falling into the temptation of taking away freedom from some, like, this is allowed, this isn't, this isn't. No. Everyone should be free as long as we respect each other, I mean, I respect here. I'm not gonna go. If I don't believe in this religion, I won't go to their church and say, hey, you're wrong, I'm the guy here. No, just let them be. That's their religion and belief. Give them a chance. And let them believe whatever they want. Don't get involved and don't invade them. Their space, their freedom, and let them enjoy it. And we even have to defend that situation. This one, and today it's here, but there are people who like to argue, not that they like it. I'm seeing there this what's his name? Jose Itapati. I mean, respect each other there. I mean, I'm saying respect each other. Calm down. I don't even know what the argument is about.
But losing because of Rocky, it's just that Rocky is also really rude.
Rocky is unacceptable to me. You need to be critical, but I don't consider Rocky a critic. He's like, just as there's a propagandist, he's an anti-propagandist. I mean, just like I criticize propagandists, I also criticize Rocky and others who just create division and spread hate with Rocky's exaggerations and nonsense. I mean, if anyone thinks he's a journalist, he's far from it. I mean, he's not someone who investigates, he's not someone who analyzes. Do you want to see a critical person? Well, for me, there's Juan Ramon, not this one. What's his name? Juan Ramon. It's Ramon. I mean, Magenta Code, for example. I mean, Magenta Code. Today, he releases 3 or 4 highly critical videos about what's happening, all with strong arguments. And then suddenly, if he sees something good, he says it too. You know what? Look, this strategy is working out well for him. President Tata, because of this, and this. Today, this isn't working out for her. Well, it's not working out, but with solid arguments, right? Here, it's not about being a propagandist or a hater, right? Yeah. I mean, what he does isn't ridiculous.
No, don't act like children, please. We're all adults here.
Yeah.
Greetings, please, to Mariangel. How are you? We're looking at the 2030 agenda, says Mariangel.
That the first one insulted, but the other didn't. No, don't tell me that. No. Don't come to me with gossip. I mean, I love you all, really. There's no problem. Yeah, look, even here with my kids, no, we don't allow gossip. I mean, no, just ignore that gossip. Things get resolved and you put up with it and everything. I mean, it's no big deal.
Says Jire. Jire says what's happening with Laida in Campeche is extreme. Guerrero is similar. And Puebla backtracked but left things unclear. Greetings.
It's very good, Jire, but it's not that great. I mean, if you like it, man, no, I'm not criticizing that. Actually, I have good friends who love it, honestly, and everything. I have no problem with that. I just don't like it, period, you know? I mean, and to me, he's just unacceptable. But if someone wants to watch him, they're 100% within their rights. And that's great. I hope they enjoy it. I think it's fine. There was some people like El Chapucero or other propagandists, and that's okay. Watch them if you want. I can't stand them either, but that's just how it is. But to each their own. For example, to me, it's like, what's it called? Lorette, for example. Oh, Lorette, do you remember Mr. Lorette? Yeah, let's not talk about him. Lopez Doriga is a nobody, right? No. I mean, they're Lorette. For example, I feel like he's also obsessed with just one topic. I mean, he says like, cool. But there are a ton of things happening in Mexico, a ton of things in the world, and even in Mexico. And you only talk about 2 or 3 topics and you don't get out of there. And I think that's kind of like an obsession, right? I mean, it's the same with Trujillo, with Victor Trujillo. I really liked him back when he started his career as a clown. But now he has become, well, again, also a hater. You say, well, yes and no. I mean, for me, now I think he's good. I feel like you lose the variety. I mean, you give it little flavor, but there are people who enjoy it. Maybe they do it. That's why maybe it's for the ratings, right? Maybe. I've seen it too with channels that only talk about Trump. I mean, you see all the graphics, Trump. No. I mean, that's everyone's personal taste, right? You know?
And then a lot of times I think, well, what if all their characters, for example, Rack and Lorette, don't even believe in the exaggeration themselves, right? And they're there dividing people actually, or me?
Me. What I feel is that you hear it so much that you even ask yourself, why are they doing it? I mean, like, what's your intention? Because it's so exaggerated that it causes rejection. You know what I mean? Yes. But when there's good criticism, when there's good research, you say, wait a minute, what's going on? Names, people, dates. This is intense and really interesting.
It's not cool. That's when the government presents them during the morning press conference. They're going to do it in the United States too. It looks really bad.
Expose them. The what? What do you call the misinforming communicators? The misinformers? That's censorship. That's an attack. It even puts these people's lives at risk. I mean, it can be that it's so easy for them because that's an abuse of power, right? According to them anyway. Acting cool, like, these are the ones. To me, it seems like a really dark subject. He says, because I got the millionaire from the good old days. Well, look, I don't know if they got it or not, man. I mean...
No, how much do they make? They're private. They don't depend on us. We don't pay them.
If you pay them, why do you earn but not pay them? You pay them for the advertising they create. And, well, they have the right to earn as much money as exists. I mean, it's their right. It's like if you provide a service and charge some money, well, you're within your rights to charge it. It's not your taxes that are there, right? The journalists who received money are right there. By the way, many of those propagandists currently from Morena are getting money right now. They're, well, paid off journalists, right? I mean, and a lot of people here still follow them. I mean, here. Well, I don't even want to mention any names because these gentlemen are very sensitive, but people have been exposing them. There's scandals about how much money they get from the government and all that. Hold on. I mean, they're supposedly independent journalists, and obviously it's clear they're not, right? I mean, they're just taking bribes, and those who are against them are also getting their money. From where? I'm not sure, but I think they're getting paid. Suddenly, just like that, you see how even journalists I've admired, I say, look, they've already fallen. You start to see that they begin to hype up a certain person, right? And suddenly it's crazy. Some billionaire just starts showing up everywhere. In this media outlet, you say, wait a minute, if this outlet is supposed to be independent, why are they trying to boost this person's image? Someone, right, a potential presidential candidate, and you say, there's money involved here, right? There's somebody there. I mean, let's suppose I introduce a character here who's a potential presidential candidate. No, and I only introduce one. I don't introduce others. I don't show several from different options. Well, that would be very suspicious, right? And you say, hey, that's kind of weird, isn't it? I mean, why do you introduce him and not others, right? If I dared to do that, I'd have to say, well, but I'm going to introduce the one on the left, right, middle, and center. I'd only do it if I commit to introducing everyone. Otherwise, I wouldn't. That's why I'm surprised by some journalists who get involved in that game. And it makes me very suspicious. I mean, it makes me very suspicious when critics are only critical of one side. It makes me very suspicious when they start praising just one person. That also makes me very suspicious. And, well, I say no, in my case, we're not a media outlet in any case. It's Astrid and me.
And we're not right-wing, okay?
And we're not right-wing, left-wing, or anything. I mean, in any case, hey, you know what? Well, maybe the part about business freedom is good. It could work if it's well managed. But also things like scholarships and all that are necessary for a country to evolve. All countries, even the most capitalist ones, have their scholarships, their social support, and their measures. I mean, all more or less civilized countries have that. And that's also good and necessary. So, there are things from the left and things from the right that are necessary, they're important, and in the end, that's the balance. At the end of the day,
Says Rosalinda Moreno. I'm the favorite of Pepe and Astrid, Celinda's children.
that's right, Rosalinda. Of course, I don't mean it in a bad way.
So, are you from Monterrey? Yes, we are. Monterrey. We're neighbors of who?
Of whom?
Is Roblox in Torreon?
Ah, in Torreon, Roblox is close by.
Yes, I have relatives there. Greetings to myself.
I also have relatives. I mean, I used to, but no, of course I do. I have relatives and there they are. 2 cousins, not right now, and I just saw one of them. Well, not just now, right? A cousin I used to hang out with the most when I was a kid. I mean, he's my buddy in Torreon. For you, Torreon is where you go to have snacks, but for me, Torreon is from my childhood. I grew up in a small town, so Torreon felt like the city to me. Ah, that's in Monterrey, right? We're going to Monterrey. My dad sold things there. He's from Monterrey. But when I went to Torreon, for me, it was Torreon. In my town, there were no Soriana or Gigante stores. Well, Gigante doesn't even exist anymore, right? But those kinds of stores didn't exist. There was one called Gutierrez, which was the closest thing. It was like, well, yeah, it's a big supermarket. I mean, big, not in quotation marks. So I remember I used to go to the Sora Circus there in Torreon. I don't know if you ever knew it. Sora Circus, maybe someone does know it. I'm not sure, but it was a huge arcade. Ah, okay, yeah, it wasn't like the best, right? Also, when I had taekwondo tournaments, the national tournaments I went to were in Torreon, so for me, Torreon. And several times I had to stay with random people. I mean, people there. Families in Torreon open their homes to visitors coming for tournaments, right? Families are really well taken care of. I remember once in a family, one of those who have a little grocery store in their house, a small convenience store. What a great dinner. I mean, seriously, since you have the store right there, obviously you have all the ingredients all the time. So on top of that, as a guest, it was like a huge dinner, a big meal, a big breakfast. I mean, I knew I was going to leave really stuffed for sure. And besides, what can you say? What do they serve you?
You say Rublo, you say yes. I remember the Solway Circus. The Solway Circus, that was many years ago, says Rublo.
Yes, yes, it was many years ago. I was a teenager when I used to go there.
Me, since I'm from here, from Monterrey, when we went to Torreon, for me, it was like going, to nowhere. I remember thinking, where would we go? Did we go to Liverpool? And I remember that in Liverpool, there wasn't even anyone. It was like there was nobody. And it was Holy Week.
Liverpool was so nice back then.
There was like a Liverpool downtown. And I remember that they took me once to the forest, yes, to the forest, of course, to the forest. We used to walk there from my grandmother's house, but there was nothing there. From there, the church and the forest and the Liverpool, and nothing else happened there.
Nothing happened? No, but when I came to Monterrey, I was fascinated. Monterrey was the best for me because of the Alpha,
Of course, the Alpha has always had things.
right? But for me, Monterrey's Alpha was the best, even if you took everything else away.
There's no Alpha anymore.
The Alpha no longer exists. For those from Monterrey, well, you already know what I mean, but for those from outside the Alpha, it was like a technology museum, right? So it had an Omnimax theater. The theater was a whole sphere and everything looked amazing. You can see in every direction. It doesn't have multiple floors, and each floor was like a different level, right? There was an anthropology floor, one for painting and one for physics technology. Not sure about others. You interacted with things, right? You touched the sphere and it. When I had hair, my hair wouldn't stand up. You go to this place and they take a picture of you and the picture stays like that. The shadow would remain on the wall. Do you remember these things like basic physics, but you actually lived them? You experienced them? Yeah, well, it was awesome. Like, I love that museum. It's really, really, really cool. It has a small aquarium. It has some things outside too. That were really nice. It's a shame they turned it into apartments. They tore everything down and they built apartments.
They're called arbolitas. If you have any doubts, that's what he said. Some peaceful, super luxurious ones, says Marvin. Did you know we knew about the neighborhood satellites? They're the people who go around gossiping in Venezuela, he says. But that might encourage an armed revolution against the regime and awaken the Venezuelan people. Regards, Marvin.
Regards, Marvin.
Greetings, Esther.
I agree with what some people here have said. Regards all the way to Canada. How have you been? Look, I have agreed with some points. Although it's difficult, it's not easy. People also have to organize themselves. The thing is that things are set up to make it hard. I think here people would have to be really sharp about how to organize themselves. And how to manage, not to be spied on by the same people. Unfortunately, they haven't created this division, and unfortunately, the Cuban regime has been experts at this, and they're trying to implement that kind of movement there.
Greetings, Marta Plasencia.
Greetings, Marta. Greetings, Braseca. Very good. Right now, just like my favorite museum, it's the History Museum. It's really great. I really like the History Museum and the one of the Mune one.
The ones downtown.
The ones downtown. If you can, and when you come visit these museums, the Mune. And that's the Museum of History, as they call that museum.
It's just that there's the museum from another town. It's not the Museum of History.
And in front is the Mune, which is this one next to it, the one on the side.
The Namas Museum from the Northeast.
From the Northeast, exactly, right? But the two museums are connected by a kind of glass hallway, so without leaving the museum, you cross the street, but through the... It's like a glass bridge, so you never really leave the museum. It's like a double museum. It's very beautiful, and besides, the Santa Lucia River is right there, which basically takes you on a little boat ride. It takes you all the way to Fundidora Park. So there's also a boat there. There's the movie theater. There's a lot of things there. So that area is there. I really love it a lot.
Yes, she says. Heidi Leon says.
Forgiveness is also part of the framework. Another excellent museum is the Museum of Modern Art. The exhibits vary, but some feature incredible works by top modern artists. One time they brought some, do you remember? They're like giant hyper-realistic dolls.
Yes, amazing exhibitions.
It's amazing. Listen, you see a baby, but it's hyper-realistic. Like, you really feel like it's real, but it's huge. Huge, like the size of a car. That piece is impressive. I can't recall the artist's name, but it's amazing.
Many are from the Netherlands, right?
Yes, the Netherlands. It's there too. They brought all the art from all the movies by Stanley Kubrick. Not Pixar, but Stanley Kubrick's For me, it was the best because he had so much. I mean, everything he did in his movies, he accumulated. He had warehouses and warehouses full of stuff. So right now, making a Stanley Kubrick exhibition is very easy because everything is there. He kept everything. So like the wigs from I don't know which movie, the gloves from I don't know which one.
He has the typewriter from The Shining complete with the pages.
They still have letters that he wrote to the FBI about UFOs, letters that the FBI and the United States government replied to him about UFOs he saw. Stanley Kubrick, those are public in El Bueno. They were in the museum, right? That for me is the best I've seen in my life. Everything I've seen in a museum. I mean, that one was amazing. That's what he says.
The topic of the title is at the beginning of the video. Nikola Tesla, we're at the end and we're not about to leave.
Nikola Tesla. You have a smart name and seem intelligent, but you need to think more and reconsider. But it's very easy.
Heidi Leon Ramos says, hey, she says, what do you think about Jalife? Jalif, I had a really nice talk. Them who?
Jalife. Oh, the one who talks about geopolitics.
We talked. Who?
Right? Who is he?
She talks about things in a really cool way, but wow, it's okay.
Let's go. She explains things really well. She really knows a lot. I mean, yes, she knows a lot. I can't deny that. But she has this, I mean, she's super Russian. Like, she's super pro-Russia. And come on, like, she's really the Brexit bloc. It's like, he's from there, right? He's with Putin. He's the best. Xi Jinping is the best. I mean, for me, that's how it is. That's what I see in him, right? It's not that he doesn't know anything else. He just has that.
He has his
very marked, that vibe. Let's say, no, yeah, huh? At least for me, like, I haven't seen him be critical of Putin, right? Or critical of Xi Jinping. He's very quiet about that. I don't think he'll ever do that, right? I would love to invite him here and ask him, why isn't he critical of Xi Jinping? Why isn't he critical of Putin? Because you can tell he's an intelligent person. You can tell he knows his stuff, but you can also see that he aligns himself with certain powers. To me, well, if you're a communicator, you should be more critical, in my opinion, right? But, well, everyone has their own way, so what else?
David Cruz, Dr. Manuel Cano, is a guy who's a doctor. He doesn't know anything about earthquakes. Yeah, earthquakes can't be.
Yeah, no, nothing to do with it, nothing.
Hello to Elisa and Sophia. She says, hi, Pepe. That's how I touched the museum sphere. Did it give you goosebumps?
Is Elisa there? And also, well, yes, exactly. Yes. If not, I went to that museum many times. This one, it's a shame our youngest son didn't make it.
He didn't make it. He just didn't make it.
Let's see. That's true, yes?
Yes, move aside. Greetings. Let's see who's missing here, says Marcella. We are free, and no one can take our freedom in the 21st century. We want to move forward, not backward, says Marcella.
Greetings, Marcella. Free and rights. Takeaway 21, move forward. Go backward, not go backward, not go backward.
You like him, Father?
There are people who are really propagandists and you don't like them, right? At least he's likable. It's a shame that, well, that erudition or intelligence, isn't used to be critical, right? And, well, he presents this classic story of, the good guys and the bad guys, right? So to speak. That's the feeling I get, Yeah. But in the end, like they say, nobody's a gold coin, right? You can't please everyone. No, obviously not. But I feel like there's a very clear trend in Latin America, in Mexico, in Spain, even from people who really lean towards propaganda, right? I mean, who really lean towards propaganda from authoritarian regimes, right? That's really curious, but that's the approach they bring. By the way, where I was surprised was that he got really tough with the president. I mean, very critical. But more like because she's Jewish and you think, dude, is it kind of anti-Semitic, dude? I mean, it's like...
I mean, if you're going to criticize her, let it be for her work.
For her work, not her religion. Whether she's from one religion or another, that just seemed very wrong to me.
Someone asked, the dove is called La Paloma. I mean, it's called La Paloma del Marco, and it's by Juan Soriano.
Juan Soriano, yes, the famous dove of the Marco Museum, right? If you visit Monterrey, you should check out Marco too. Everything's walkable. I mean, don't take taxis for that. For example, you go to Marco, exactly from Marco. You can go eat at Barrio Antiguo. There are all kinds of restaurants. If you're vegetarian, vegan, meat dishes, whatever, they have everything. And then you can walk all along the macro and there on the macro without crossing any streets. You go to the History Museum, to the Government Palace, which now also has the museum there. Sometimes it's there, sometimes not. But right now there's a museum with the Mune and everything else. The Macro Plaza is nice, and Morelos Street is an interesting commercial area. I think it's about 1.5 kilometers or 1 kilometer. I don't recall, but there are all kinds of shops from traditional stores to McDonald's. So there's something for everyone. This one is connected to the Mune, to the History Museum, and through the Santa Lucia River. I mean, you get on the little boat, it'll take you to Fundidora, and the museum is right there, okay? It's in the Sinteca Photo Archive, right? Sinteca Photo Archive always hosts exhibitions.
And the Children's Museum.
The Children's Museum, there's also the Wax Museum there.
And also the Papalote.
Papalote is for kids and has a movie theater with 3D movies. It's good. And the movies are usually cool and for kids, right? And then there's the LA, what I used to call the art gallery, but it's not an art gallery, right?
Now it's called something different.
Different. Yeah. I don't know what it is.
Uh-huh. She says, here, Tapati. No, we've already said it, but she adds, here it is.
It has an ice skater. It has several things. It has several more things, huh?
She said, where to, Guralitos? She says he's very smart but acts arrogant. That man. Yes, that happens with people sometimes. Like, they really want to make it clear that they know a lot, and it's fine that they know a lot. But they look bad when they lose some power when they do that. And here it also says, Mauro? It says, you lean towards the tree that gives you the most shade.
And it also says that this guy is a yo-yo. It just says all about himself. Yes. And it's also a woman.
Yes, and that makes people lose power, right? Because they start to dislike each other.
Yes, it gets like that, huh? Man, this guy. I have several acquaintances like that. Ha, yeah. I mean, they know a lot, yeah. Yeah, but sometimes you just think, okay, it's cool that they know. And I absolutely have friends who know a lot and they're really humble and really down to earth, right? I have a friend who's a historian who knows a lot and has really great conversations. But he's also very down to earth. I mean...
And he tells you things in a really cool way, but he doesn't go around saying, I know, I went, I read. No.
No. I know, I traveled, I did this. No, he's not like that. He's very, very good. Very humble, honestly.
She says Francis Carr. She's from Monterrey. The good thing was the Taylors, but they already took them away. Well, they haven't taken them away yet. They're still there.
They still haven't taken them away. So look, I don't know what's good here in Monterrey.
No, they don't know it in the scene.
I didn't just go one by one.
Oh, to study, no.
To study?
Yes, because the guy in the program always studied at Taylor's.
No, I didn't go with a friend. It's this guy. By the way, he's super Christian, like really, but I don't know. He just took us to have some beers, but actually it was a friend of his who wanted us to go there. The experience is super interesting because it wasn't at a fancy strip club. It wasn't one of those... Well, a lot of people go there out of curiosity because of the weird things you see there. Let's say, no, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's the classic case of the lady who dresses like really revealing nurse, like,
There are people with low income.
Low income? Yeah. I mean, people go because the beer's cheap and because the show is a little weird. So people, I mean, they literally show up there, like, straight from work, right? I mean, that's how they show up, Nacedo, and they still have plaster and paint on their clothes and everything, and they go there to have some beers and clap. But just realize that this is a show. And I think Almodovar should see it sometime. I mean, I wish Almodovar could see it. Because you see things you'll never see anywhere else. And I don't mean that in a bad way. People are very respectful. Yes, I mean, the people, the gentlemen, the workers, they're very respectful as far as the girls allow. No, yeah, but it is really strange. That's the only time I've ever been there. And once in Piedra Negra, I had an after party, and the after party ended up in one of those places. Yeah, really weird.
I mean...
Everyone was there. Literally, everyone from the wedding was there. I mean, guys, everyone. I mean, really interesting.
Greetings to Icon Render, but he asks, how much? How far do I ride my bike?
On the bike, how much do you do for the whole route?
Not sitting the whole time on the bike, it's easy.
Yeah, just make sure it's your own bike since the rentals at Fundidora can only be used inside Fundidora.
There you could rent the electric bikes.
Oh, well, yeah, there are some electric scooters that you can now rent with an app, so they're out there on the street everywhere. So you just pay with the app, get on and go. I think it's 2 pesos per kilometer per minute, but I'm not sure how it works. You pay per minute, right? Yeah, so you just go and you can ride inside, I mean, without stepping on a single street. All that route I just mentioned, and I'm missing a lot of things. It's just that right now, well, I'm just doing it from memory. But for example, there's Sintermex, which is also for conventions, and all of Fundidora is right next to Sintermex. So this, well, yes, for example, if that day there's a book fair convention or the anime one, you can spend half a day at the anime one. Are you going to Fundidora the following day? If you visit Monterrey, stay at a hotel near Fundidora or the Macro Plaza. That way you can get around everywhere without needing transportation. I mean, bring a bike or take a scooter or rent a scooter and you can get around with no problem, right? I mean, yeah, it's fine, cool.
Yeah, he says, let's see, it's here. Do you remember that television show? Laughter, even in the best families. I don't know it.
Check it out on YouTube. I haven't seen it.
He says that's how he imagines it. Like Pepe described, they came out wearing masks and dressed as werewolves. I don't know. Yeah, like, I don't know. Hello, EMA Andrade, how are you?
Greetings, EMA, very good.
He says, greetings to us. Greetings to Luis Alberto, who says, I think he sees everything on a macro level. Mr. Khalife says, Luis Alberto, yes?
Yes, he has interesting data and things like that. Well, more than with a very, very, very marked vision. I think almost everyone, right? They have it. I mean, certain views that, well, sometimes are just so strong that it makes me wonder why, right? I mean, because I don't know, I can't imagine criticizing certain leaders or certain countries. I mean, and that already makes it kind of strange for me, right? Because, like I said, we're not going to say, oh, everything is bad in X country, right? Hey, well, no, obviously not. Almost every country will have very positive, very good things. There are disgraceful governments, obviously, like Maduro, for example, disgraceful. No, in that case, I don't see anything worth saving, especially not from that government in Venezuela. No, I mean, the case of Cuba, for example, with the disaster they have right now. Well, the disaster is from the government, not from the Cuban people, right? I mean, in any case, the Cuban people are also victims of this whole situation. That's what he says.
What really bothers me about Cuba are the tourists who go there to take advantage of the young girls. I think it's really low because you see older Europeans like in their 40s and up with young girls who are barely 18. That's how it is, isn't it? It's so sad to see because they do it out of necessity for shoes, for food, for whatever they can, right? But they're just girls, aren't they? And many Europeans especially go there for that.
The regime allows it too, right? Do they allow it there? I don't think so. Because if they didn't want it to happen, I mean, if they didn't want it, they wouldn't know.
Yes, she says. Guadalajara. There are several good ones, even clubs, for example. We had an acquaintance from college who was going to study at the City Burs.
Yes.
But he would go during the day. I mean, I remember that suddenly we were leaving class. I had a classmate in my year whose name I didn't know. And I would say to him, let's go to the... I don't remember what his name was. Colorado. I don't know. Let's go study. And they would go study because they had a buffet. And it was like, they really didn't go so much to see the girls. No, they went to eat from the buffet and to study. Doesn't it distract you?
Supposedly, the meat was really good.
Grilled meat doesn't exist anymore. I haven't seen it. No.
Because there's a place where human immunodeficiency viruses are...
Yes, but there was another one by Morones. As far as I know, it's not there, says Heidi Leon. What do you think about the case of El Salvador? I'm very interested in your point of view because you are very credible.
Heidi, the case of El Salvador. Bukele is a figure who has both light and dark sides, as they say. The positive thing that I completely understand is I'm going to fix security and I'm going to have to take a tough stance. For a moment, I think we can all more or less agree on that. Okay, that's fine. Now you take a tough stance and you put in a state, what do they call it?
State of emergency?
A state of emergency, right? Only the state of emergency remains, right? And it's not a free country. As long as the state of emergency is in place, it's not a free country. Injustices are still happening, and you're in a state of emergency, right? So... on one hand, I'm really glad to hear Salvadorans say, Pepe, it's okay, father. because now I can walk on the street at night because I'm happy because my business is doing well. I'm not being charged, and I love that. It's great. I hope this president isn't the only reason they're going to have security, because if that's the case, it's already over. They're going to have a dictator there, and he's going to be there for life, right? And well, that's how it's going to be, right? As long as he's in power, there should be security. But for the country to be truly free, they'd have to be. Let's see. Without Bukele, security remains. There won't be the temptation for him to stay in power again and again, over and over. That's the problem I see there, right? So, but I insist. I mean, it's good that security was achieved. That's good, but unfortunately, it also came with very harsh actions. Actions that sometimes cross the line, and in many cases even go beyond it, of human rights and anything else you want. I understand what this person is saying. He's saying that people were also terrified. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If the same thing happened in Europe, if the same thing happened in Canada or the United States, they would also get really tough and wouldn't just let all the gangs suddenly take control. And I think so, right? I mean, it's like when you see in those images, suddenly in Canada or the United States, when someone is just pulling out a wallet and bam, they shoot, you know what I mean? I mean, they're really tough, right? And they go with Venezuela. I mean, they go with this Bukele and say, is that you? People also live that way in the United States and Canada. Suddenly that exaggerated police harshness, right? Sometimes it's really excessive, not always, and not in every case, obviously, but sometimes it's really excessive. In the case of Bukele, when you had a problem, if you have one, and besides a country with a very small territory, it was relatively easy to control that situation, and he did it, and that achievement has to be recognized. Even though, unfortunately, there were victims, there were injustices. Some have been resolved, others not. But yes, there were injustices. But you say, overall, I think right now, well, people are happy. That's what Salvadorans and many others here have told us. But other than that, the risk I see is that they might be creating another dictator and now depend on Bukele to maintain that security in the long term. So that's the problem. I don't know if you do.
Yes, exactly. And we'll hear various perspectives. For instance, someone asks, if Bukele is delivering results, why change him? Marvin says, but actually, Pepe, I prefer to be where we are now rather than how it was before, of course. And he also says that people can change their vote later. Let's hope democracy continues in El Salvador. Exactly. Francisco Archie says, people don't want democracy. They want results.
Exactly, many times, and unfortunately people think that, oh well, as long as there are results, I don't care about democracy. I mean, in the case, for example, China, I mean, you say, hey, look, it's a population that was in poverty, it's a 1.4 billion people. Suddenly, the solution for China might not be the same as the one for the United States or for France. Maybe that's the reality, right? I mean, but that doesn't mean I'm going to agree with everything they do. From my point of view in Mexico, right? Here, I'm watching from afar, right? I'm not there. But suddenly, sorry, if we stop to think about it, hey, there are 1.4 billion people. You can't use Buckley's solution or the ones already made in progress or from the former president. The solutions aren't the same even here in Mexico. I mean, the security solutions in Yucatan aren't the same as in Monterrey or in Michoacán or in Oaxaca. They're almost like different countries. See, honestly, go live in Oaxaca or go live in Yucatan. You'll see that it's a completely different reality in almost every way. It's just that we have the same flag, that we speak the same language. And more or less, because sometimes we don't even understand each other.
Many communities speak their own original languages.
Exactly, but besides that, the accents. So aren't they different solutions? A friend from Yucatan told me, he said, how do you all manage here with such a safe state? Very simple, he says. Myself, him being from Yucatan, he says, when I go to a town where they don't know me, a tiny little town, one where they've never seen me before, and I show up there being from Yucatan, everyone says they're watching me. Everyone already knows I'm there. If I start causing trouble, the people themselves will come and confront me directly. And if it's serious trouble, they'll even come armed. Yeah, I mean, the people look out for each other. Yeah. Even, I mean, they say you're a stranger if you don't live there, basically. I mean, these are towns where everything is very well established, very deeply rooted, and everyone knows each other. So it's hard for groups to infiltrate. I mean, it does happen. Yeah, there are mafias, they do exist. But it's much more controlled because people keep watch, people are paying attention. And then suddenly there are places like Coahuila, for example, which I've used as an example several times. Not that Coahuila is perfect or anything, but they've managed to solve it after many years of insecurity. They solved it themselves. Hey, they didn't even send them soldiers, and here I've personally known cases of people who work for the government. Pepe has told me it's really bad here, but they don't even want to send us soldiers, or they send us soldiers without any money. I mean, they say, okay, I'll send them to you, but you? He says the municipality pays for their hotel and food, but I can't afford to pay for them. I mean, they send the soldiers to X municipality and then without any money. So then they're out there looking for places, rooms, buildings, whatever, so the soldiers can sleep there. So what some state governments have done is solve the problem themselves. I mean, the states solve the problem and they also have to solve it. I mean, they also have, what's it called? Well, part of the responsibility states and municipalities. So suddenly here we've had a period, again, of security.
Quite a lot, violence in general and thefts.
Yes.
But what worries me, what I'm saying, but who says this is only because of the World Cup? Not because they're preparing for the World Cup, and after the World Cup, everything goes back to the way it was.
We should see what's happening in other states where the World Cup will be held. If they're like that, but at least here, security has improved a lot. And I don't know if it's a municipal, state, federal, or combined issue, but it's noticeable. Crazy, right? Crazy.
Crazy.
Even so, I mean, the media here that are most critical of this Samuel have had to admit it. I mean, and now they criticize him for other issues because there are other problems too. Like the issue with the drainage. I don't know what's going on with these pipes they're installing for the subway, that they're behind schedule. I mean, other problems. But right now, the issue of security here in Nuevo Leon hasn't been the most serious or anything. It's there, but at least it's controlled.
And he says, that thing about informants on every block in Venezuela, he says that's from Cubans, and that the first thing Fidel did was the famous ones. Committees for the Defense of the Revolution, which means division of families, neighbors, and people in general in Cuba by informants.
This is the phone.
A Dallas phone. Look, Marvin. Greetings, Marvin.
Martin Gutierrez greets. Pepe says, there is a president who did the same thing. He went to the countries of the what dragons, who stayed in countries as president, but doing things right. I didn't understand that part about dragons. Greetings, says Luis Alberto. What isn't fair is that they compare Mexico with Mr. Bukele. It's not the same problem in terms of the size of the country. No, you can't apply the same thing.
Who said that?
Does he say?
Luis Alberto, I completely agree with you. I mean, this has nothing to do with it exactly. I mean, this doesn't even make sense. I mean, you would have to, I mean, they would have to know. It's like when they tried to apply it in Haiti. I mean, everyone said, well, no, that doesn't work here. I mean, it's useless. No, it's not like that. That's not the way it goes. He says that for what you just mentioned, Bukele had a response according to the population density. That's why I agree with you, he says. You can compare, says Marvin. Exactly, you can compare. And the thing is, what I'm getting at is that it can be solved. I mean, the security problem, even beyond the federal level, and whether it's the president or not, it can be solved. Because Coahuila proved it. Right now, Nuevo Leon is proving it, but at times, Yucatan has proved it, or I mean, other states have proved it too. It can be done by any government, not just Movimiento Ciudadano, Morena, or Partido Acción Nacional. I mean, there have been some who have done decent work, more or less decent, and you can tell that when they want to, they can do it. Not this one, but there aren't other places. It seems to me that something deeper is going on, which you already mentioned to me about the port, and I think it could really be related to what you're saying. I mean, if too many strange things happen there,
You just can't check everything exactly, especially in the United States.
Even less from here. A lot of strange things arrive at the ports which can clearly trigger problems. So if that's a factor, then you'd have to think about how to handle it so it doesn't become a problem for people, right? I mean,
Martin Gutierrez. Este says, in Latin America, the police earn little and the drug traffickers with money pay them more. Do you know how many journalists have died in Mexico? Well, today, yes, the farmers made that threat, right? That if they don't come to an agreement about the price with the government, then they're going to have to start growing poppy because in the end, they have a need.
yes, the threat is really serious, he says. He says it's unfortunate that crime is seen as a path to success, ignored by failed governments. Well, no, that's not the path to success at all. It's, look, Abraham, I send you a big greeting. I think it's Abraham, right? This one, that issue is only about 1% of our problems here. It's blown up by the media, it's blown up by a lot of things, but it's a minor problem. I mean, there are a lot of people who are successful in their businesses, in what they do, whether it's theater, plays, movies. There are 1,000 things. A lot of successful people who are doing very well. Sports, whatever you can think of. I mean, there's everything. You know, there are a lot of people creating their own projects, their own software. So it really depends on where you move. That's what you see, right? If you only watch news about organized crime, you'll mostly see that. But there's actually a lot of variety. And for most people who aren't involved in those topics, well, they live a completely different reality. Those who are into music are into music. Those who are into something else are into that, right? Isn't that how it is? That problem that maybe suddenly some people from other countries think exists, no. Even here, many foreigners come and succeed, right? In Mexico or Latin America, right? They come here, live, start businesses, succeed, and grow here, right? I mean, it's definitely something that people aren't always aware of, right? Or certain realities start to be created that will benefit other things, right? Other intentions too. Greetings from Humberto. How have you been? Humberto Garza.
Very good. Greetings to Karim, who says, Hi Pepe, I'm really good now. Will your analysis be realistic? No, what does he say? I didn't know. I didn't know.
Greetings.
Karim, it's good that you explained that reality of Mexico and show the good and the bad and the regional differences. It's not that Mexico is, but super...
Very diverse. Yes, very diverse, right? Because it's not just about the culture of each state, but also sometimes even the geography itself, right? For example, there's a beautiful state called Zacatecas. It's right next to us, and I can almost bet anything that if I ask 100 people on the street, have you been to Zacatecas? 95% will tell me no, if not 99%, and it's right next to us. It's just a few hours away, and it's a very beautiful state. What can I say? Not touristic, just unsafe. So between the insecurity, the cultures, whatever you want to call it, people just don't go. They simply don't go. This is just an example, right? But I mean, it could give more truth about how we can be neighbors and not know each other. I mean, when it comes to the States, it's like there's some kind of wall, invisible, cultural, geographical, whatever you want. And it's like, it's not that we get along badly or anything, not at all. I mean, without any problem. There's no fight or argument, nothing at all. Everyone just does their own thing, like it doesn't exist. Tacos rarely come up. Yeah, look, right? I mean, you know, that's why...
When they insult Mexican food, we go crazy.
Food brings us together. In Mexico, food really brings us together. I mean, maybe I don't know anything about X state, but the food really brings us together. Yes, food, soccer. I mean, there are certain things that bring us together. So it's really strange because we have a lot of divisions where we hardly interact with certain states, but at the same time, we have really strong bonds in some areas.
And here's the whitest Mexican, like the absolute whitest. He's going to be super proud of everything, all the culture of the indigenous cultures of Mexico, not just the Mayans, I mean, all the traditions. Yeah, I mean, no matter what, it's like you have it deep inside, right? Yes?
Yeah. Honestly, yes. When you go there, you realize that maybe people there don't really see you as one of them, but you
consider yourself internally.
You think of yourself as Maya or Aztec because you wear those clothes.
Yes.
Exactly, but when you're there, do you remember that? Once we talked with a Mayan chief who is supposed to be the chief of all the Mayans internationally. I don't know what's up, supposedly, no.
Well, because it includes Guatemala.
It covers Guatemala and Belize.
I agree. What about this one?
And he told us that the Mexicans who are not Mayan, he said, for us, you are foreigners. That's what he told me. And I said, oh.
And did you feel it straight in your heart?
I broke my heart. Well, but anyway, that's his vision.
But what about us, the best?
Yes. No, of course. But yes, no. Yes, no. No. There's like a lot of misunderstanding in the sense of how people abroad in particular believe these things happen here. And that's why when foreigners visit, they're sometimes scared at first, but then quickly see the reality. They say it has nothing to do with what we've been told.
Says Hires. When you meet a Mexican abroad, they immediately feel like family, even if you don't know their state. She says, it's nice, do you mean right? But recently a video went viral of a girl in France who didn't know how to get to a place, right? And she was talking to a guy and she started speaking in English because obviously she didn't know French and you could tell the guy didn't understand her. She asked, do you speak Spanish? I said, yes. She then asked, where are you from? Mexico? And everyone started shouting, no, but where?
Exactly. The specific state doesn't matter. It happened to me once with this guy. I forgot his name, but he's a co-worker at the newspaper. I worked at a newspaper and he was a co-worker, but from a different floor and section. But he stuck with you. He really did, because he dressed like a Beatle, you know? And he looked like a Beatle. Really blonde, like that, but blonde, and he dressed like a Beatle. Everyone sort of knew him. I didn't know his name, just that he would walk by there. So these were my first days alone in Spain. And you see him walking there, but he's probably a European, isn't he? But I said, he looks a lot like him. He really does. And I thought, well, what if it is him? So what I did, so I wouldn't embarrass myself, where did this guy pass by? I say, hey, dude, like that. No, if he's Mexican, let's go.
He's going to turn around. You said huevo and you turned around.
Yeah, and he does this. He turns like this, really surprised. What happened, bastard? I don't know what it was. Hugging each other like we had been buddies our whole lives. Well, yeah, he knew who I was too. Like, you were at El Norte, the newspaper. Yeah, I was also there at El Norte. I'm not sure. We met there 2 or 3 times to talk. I took some pictures of them for him. He went to make a book and I took some pictures for the book. Later, he gave me a copy of the book featuring my photo. But that's how it was. Wherever you go, you see and hear the accent, right? And that's from here, yes.
Greetings to Marta Limon. Thank you so much, Marta, for that super chat. And Marta, thank you very much. She's in Denver and Mrs. Monterey. So I assume she's from here, from Monterey. Greetings, Marta.
Marta, greetings, Marta.
It keeps growing. Yes, huge. Monterey still has terrible traffic. Greetings to Roblanks, and also, let's see, a bunch. We've been here over 2 hours, so I think I've greeted everyone. Martin Gutierrez. Singapore overcame violence and corruption with a tough approach, achieving notable economic and social success at the cost of individual freedoms and establishing a model. Martin Bukile says Bukile follows Singapore's example.
Yes, he's probably right. Maybe because, look, I remember when Singapore started, I was a kid, and I remember hearing the news. In Singapore, they fine you $50 for throwing gum on the ground. I remember thinking, wow, what a crazy country. They give such harsh fines. And that Singapore was always famous for its very strict laws, but also that's what's smart about the people who created that whole model. If you opened a business there, they respected your rights over your business 100%. You opened a business and you had a problem. For example, with a government official, just followed the law. So it wasn't like they favored the government official or a local company, right? If they didn't respect your business, then that gets passed along. The gossip isn't like, hey, over there I had trouble with the company and they respected my business. No, I didn't have any trouble, right? And the gossip kept spreading. There was rule of law. They respected it, were tough, and you had to be careful, but there wasn't really any trouble, right? So a lot of companies started to move, and it became a rich city, a really very rich city.
The camera is already upset.
But it only applies there. I mean, it's not like you can apply it in Mexico. Not at all. No, I mean, it doesn't apply in other places. Small countries in terms of territory, right? Basically, no. Let's go. We've talked a lot. Miguel Espino, how have you been? Marta, good evening. May says she's in Florida, and with one, my wife is jealous. I go to bed and get up with you all.
Greetings to Magico Luna.
Greetings, Magical Luna.
In the Chingonario dictionary,
It says Chingonario Andale Tapatia. Exactly, bro. It says here, Jerez, this guy,
it says the guy, he's the one called Mexican by the...
he's the one he called, exactly. That's it. Look what would have happened. It wasn't that I got confused, I confused him. Otherwise, he would have kept going and I just say I got confused. But the reaction of flying off was really funny. Like, obviously, it wasn't this one. Hello to everyone. Thank you very much. Furita, it fell. Honestly, yes. Look,
Hasn't it already been 2 hours? She said repeatedly.
check it out. How do I have my...
Don't move the switch.
I mean, check out this sticky thing it has here.
Yeah, the great tape.
Anyone familiar with gray tape knows that's just how it goes.
Greetings, Luis Alberto. Greetings. Well, we'll see each other tomorrow.
I'm going to Singapore. Greetings, awesome. Well, have a great one. Take care. Good night.
And they spent 2 hours talking. Remember that we are...
We have to do marathons.
Yes, Telegram and WhatsApp will notify you about live sessions. See you tomorrow.
A hug. See you tomorrow.
Thank you for watching the PP News Live, where Earth's events occur and outer space secrets are analyzed like nowhere else. Thank you for subscribing.